start officially open the 6th event in Greece. First of all, thank you very much indeed for Culture Polis that organized this event, and also for the great work done by the staff of the Culture Polis, Dionysia, and all the other staff that work on this event. Just I give immediately the floor to Dionysia, the first that will bring us the welcome introduction. The floor is yours, Dionysia. Okay, wait a second. Okay, Dionysia, you can talk now.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your interest and for the fact that you are here with us today. As we all understand that we are all suffer from digital fatigue nowadays, and all these virtual events are not very easy to follow up. In addition, I want to thank the lead partner of this project, of course, for his constant support in organizing this event, and the 5 previous ones with a great success in Mazzara del Vallo, in Italy, in Malta, in Poland and Montenegro, which we hadn't the opportunity to visit due to COVID-19 restrictions, and of course for the future events to come. I want to thank all the invited speakers who accepted our invitation to present their work and expertise through innovative and inclusive practices, and I'm looking forward to hear their presentations. The A4EUS project gives an opportunity to open the dialogue regarding immigrant integration in Europe and in national levels, triggering a different topic each time. Today, in our Greek event, we're going to explore the potential of integrated immigrant populations through intercultural and cultural initiatives as a significant driving force for raising awareness among this issue, and at the same time to achieve a better understanding of the other. Here I want to mention, especially for our international participants, that immigration in Greece is a very significant part of the country's social structure, just taking into consideration the situation outburst in the Aegean Islands during the 2015, when over 850,000 immigrants arrived in the Greek islands, asking for asylum due to several reasons that made them massively leave their countries. Culture Police is supporting immigrant integration through EU-funded projects, initiatives and actions, mainly in the field of culture, and today you will have the opportunity to learn more about them, as well as other initiatives coming from different places of the Greek environment. I don't want to keep you waiting anymore. I welcome you all once again, and I wish you a pleasant virtual event.
Thank you very much. Before to introduce also the president of Culture Police, just let me give a general overview about our project. This project is A4EUS, is a project aimed to foster and raise the awareness and knowledge about some specific aspect connected to the immigration and refugees integration. We try to raise the attention of the citizens of the other countries and partners involved in this project. And to do that, we had scheduled 7 events in some specific country in the Mediterranean area. Unfortunately, as you know, we had to reschedule all the activities virtually, so organize a virtual event. And even for this, of course, is a pity because we have not the chance to see and visit directly some territories and meet each other physically. But this gave us the opportunities to do more activities, if we can say that. So organizing more virtual events, more interim activities, some videos, some video, survey, etc. Just now, let me give the opportunity to share the website of the project, so where you can see listed all the activity we have already done and the activity that we are going to do. Wait a second, just to show you. You should see the the video, the website. Okay, you should see now my video. Okay. Here we are. This is the project website. We have also a Facebook page where I invite you to join, to put like on the Facebook page. We have also Instagram page, and this is instead is the official website of the project. You can see there are 14 international events scheduled. Some of them already organized, like in Mazara del Vallo, Malta, Poland, and Montenegro, and now we are virtually in Greece. We have about 16 associated partners from 12 countries. Actually, the total number of associated partners is higher than this one because we have had some requests from partners, extra partners, to join the project, and we were willing to welcome them with us. So this is the list of all the participants of the project. Of course, this is the Focus Europe is the coordination of the project. Then we have all the partners mainly come from the Mediterranean area, but we have also the Balkan area, and Bulgaria and Poland area, because we would like to give a general overview about the phenomenon of immigration and in all the countries that more are facing this phenomenon. So this is the partnership, the consortium of the project. I already said the project aimed to raise the awareness of the citizens, of NGO, of the public authorities, or simply of the simple interested people about the issues related to the immigration and refugees. From a general overview, so we try to analyze the characteristic of each country, so try to understand the peculiarity of each country that organize the event. So we are trying to give a general overview about the phenomenon. This is not a project for or against something. We would like only have a clear and honest, and fair discussion on a really important issues, that is the one related to the immigration or and refugees, and we want to do that without any prejudice, without any how we can say political issues or something like that. Just to give a fair and clear overview of the project. So say that I already all. I give the floor to Dionysia. The floor, to the President Lapodis. I give you now the privilege. The floor is yours.
Don't forget to open your microphone because we can't hear you.
Yes, sorry, yes. They give me the opportunity to share the content, please. The share button. Daniele, how can I? Yeah. He has to give me the authority. Okay, now good. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Vasilios Laopodis. I'm the founder and president of Culture Polis, based in Corfu, Greece, and that you will not visit this time, but we will try our best to make you aware of that in the coming projects. And today I will speak about a a view, a best practice that we have developed using culture to understanding the other, where the other being whatever you imagine, a different religion, different identity, different language, different sex, or whatever have you. And this is developed under the umbrella of a thing we call it Kelalp. Doesn't mean anything in any language except Greek, but it means is the Center for Greek and Arabic Literature and Culture. And we will speak about it because another speaker that will follow, Mrs. Persa Kumuchi, is the director of Kelalp, and you will hear more. But let's start from the basics. I believe that we have all to understand what is the basement of that, is how to explore the mutual understanding and respect via exchange of views between individuals, group with different ethnic, cultural, religious, linguistic background and heritage. This is a definition used in European Union and the Council of Europe. And this activity is developed within societies, between the societies of Europe and between Europe and the wider world. So it's not a isolated thing. And of course, there have been policies, programs, actions in all these subjects. So the EU view, and I take the liberty to try to express it, being a retired official of the European Commission, so I have both hats here, is how to assist the European citizens and all those living in the European Union. This means immigrants, refugees, and whatever, in acquiring the knowledge and attitudes to enable them to deal with more open and complex environment, and is a political target and a framework for education. So in Culture Polis some years ago, we started our operations in 2006, but we were believing that if we use culture, it can be our vehicle toward the understanding of the other. Don't be impressed by the pictures. I will explain in a minute. And in this context, we have run a first Adriatic-Ionian Intercultural Dialogue Conference back in Corfu in 2008, co-organized by the offices of European Parliament in Greece, Croatia, and Italy, the neighbors of Adriatic-Ionian. And then it gave us the opportunity to implement a EU-funded project called Intercultural Dialogue, and focusing on the first Arab World Festival, East meets West. It was happened, and these pictures come from there when this splendid tent, Arabic tent, came from Morocco, and we installed it in the main square of Corfu, which is from the Venetian era, and it's impressive. And this is the interior when we had the project meeting. So Daniele, it's an idea. Next time we will be using other means of having meetings. This is inside the Arabic tent. This was the logo of that time, but it's just a reminder. And here I will give you some hints how it all started. We organized a 1 week-long festival in Corfu around that, and people have come to attend an international conference with the attractive title From Odysseus of Homer to Sinbad the Sailor. It means quite a lot to people from Arabic countries. Storytelling, myths, novel competitions, workshop on music, literature, dance, painting, and of course gastronomy. We enjoyed very much. And but we had big plans with the support of some Arab countries' embassies to make a big event every 2 years. But unfortunately, then the Arab Springs started and failed, and they created a completely different situation. And this is the completely different situation that we live from 2011 to now. I mean, these are pictures here and there showing what was the situation and how the immigration issue became a real problem and a disaster for these people. We believe that being in the Mediterranean, and we have the privilege to belong to the cradle of the world civilization since thousands years before Christ. And nobody can imagine a history of the world without Egyptian, Hellenistic, Roman, and later Ottoman civilizations. But we have here different cultures, different religions, different ethics, and we felt the need to create, to build, a connecting line based on the Greek and Arab culture. This may facilitate, by understanding the other better through the culture, to be closer and have a really real open discussion. So we created, with the initiation also of Persa Kumuchi, as I said, the Center of Greek and Arabic Literature and Culture as a kind of autonomous initiative of Culture Polis. Just last year. Why we did that? Because in our minds is a better understanding, focus on what unites us rather than the other things that separate us. So through research, studies, analysis, discussions, and dialogue, and targeted actions, we bring this issue on the front run. And for that, we have initiated a number of projects besides the other events. And one of the successful projects is called Together, Towards a Cultural Understanding of the Other, which is inscribed in the same context. And the Culture Polis is the lead partner, and we have started last October, and it gives interesting results already. And here we have a participation of a Lebanese non-profit organization that we are very happy to have them there. So what we have done so far, we have run a number of events, of course, virtually, and some in Corfu, in Athens, worldwide. And the focus is always on literature and culture. And you see here the different events we have run and to be run. So the first was on the role of literary translation in promoting international dialogue, and we've done that with the Department of Translation and Interpretation of the Ionian University. Then we have run under the auspices of the Hellenic Foundation for Culture, the first meeting of Greek and Arab poets, and there is a series. In January, we had another meeting, very successful, of Greek and Arab poets again, but on the subject of From Another Place. And on 17th of March, in a few days, we celebrating also the International Days of Women on yesterday. And so I salute all the female present people around this meeting, and we have also to make a kind of not declaration, but I miss the English word. All staff in Culture Polis are women, so I'm a minority, but I enjoy that. So on the 17th of March, we have the third meeting of Greek and Arab poets. You see the pictures of these people. The first above the rank is the three eminent poets from Arab countries, and below are the Greek ones. So it's a kind of not confrontation, as Daniele cleverly explained. It's a kind of being together and understand each other through culture, through their poems, etc. We have a strong support already from the Hellenic Foundation of Culture, some universities, and lately the Secretariat General for Public Diplomacy and Diaspora Greek from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Greece, and we will try to put together some ideas. So let's continue. Of course, this was done in a few months, but now what? So our objective is to strengthen the links more between Greek and Arab cultural organization and creators at large, cultural creators, create a network of Hellenic cultural hubs in Arab-speaking countries, Middle East, Persian Gulf, Africa, and then reinforce the presence of our presence in international network. We are member already, Anna Lindh Foundations, for instance, and examine the initiation of novel experiments with other peoples, quote unquote, where there is a Greek cultural heritage, Black Sea, Pontus in Turkey, Georgia, Crimea, Ukraine, etc. And these are our dreams. We are living in a very unsafe world, I must say, but we believe that this activity that raised interest and attracted a lot of participation will be catalytic in what we've been doing. I invite you to see our trilingual website, Greek, English, and Arabic, and then join us in any capacity you may like. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation. If are there any questions or doubts, you can just put it in the chat, and then I can report to the speaker. We have some partners wrote me privately. Maybe we can proceed with the other speakers, and then at the end proceed with some Q&A. I give now the floor to Dr. Persa Kumotsi. Just give me her the privilege. Just let me give her the privilege of okay. Now you should be able to share your screen and presentation.
Actually, I'm not going to use any visual aids. I'm planning to talk to you about my thought on why literature is a very important bridge of communication. And Dr. Leopoldis has made all the necessary presentation of the life of our new initiative that brings together two very major cultures through literature, basically, as not only because I'm a writer and a translator of Arabic literature for more than 35 years, but because I strongly believe that indeed literature is one of the most important bridges that transcend all borders, especially now that we need it more than ever. And I'm going to concentrate on the case of Arabic literature that we are I'm dealing with it for many years. As we all know, the term intercultural or cross-cultural dialogue, which until the end of the 1980s was not very widespread or even known to most people in Greece or even Europe, today is a term very familiar and well established in our consciousness. Thus, many academic studies worldwide have been conducted to analyze its aspects and parameters and its impact on the study of humanities and other social and anthropological sciences. Yet, intercultural dialogue is not a new phenomenon. The need for a dialogue and communication with other cultures and for an opening towards a socially, politically, culturally, and even religiously different people than us, or culture than ours, has always been a matter of major importance and concern human history. I should add here that this is my speech today is a very small part of the longer study that I'm preparing. So I will try to sum up a few of my ideas. So it is true that every culture has its own specific characteristics, which encompass the way of life, tradition, aesthetic experience, religious beliefs, personal and collective values of any place. In other words, culture is connected to the core of the society in which it is developed. Nevertheless, no culture can evolve without the communication with others. The culture of a nation expands our horizons to new ideas and perceptions. At the same time, through the discovery of the cultural identity of others, we obtain more awareness of our own. One of the, as I began saying, one of the most important tools or bridges of communication and bridging the gaps between different mentalities or languages or anything is literature. Because even when it expresses or deals with certain elements of a specific community of people, the values it promotes are and must be universal and humanitarian, since the main purpose of literature is man himself. And I'm not talking here as a writer and translator, but also as a reader, along with the fundamental existential issues that concern him or her and determine or govern his or her existence, behavior, beliefs, etc. Quoting Aristotle, I'd say here, literature does not only imitate life and society of a certain place, it does not only reflect its past or its present, but rather its most important function is to unite and unify people. And more recently, Umberto Eco, in his theory of semiotics, suggested that the whole culture would be studied as a phenomenon of communication through literature. So did support Jean-Paul Sartre, in addition to the writer George Eliot, who pointed out if literature does not broaden our perspective of the other, then it has no value at all or any moral influence. Hence, literature is a universal language that transcends all borders and should transcend all borders. Even though, as I previously mentioned, writers portray the core of the society, the issues they raise come from the immediate cultural context that surrounds them, and thus the aspect of universality is always present in literature, as it is in music, I believe. And this is simply because writers, I should point that all the time, should not be mere narrators of a local myth. And even when this happens, they should reflect a universal one and a universal truth. This, of course, requires from the writers a more careful and complex observation of the human condition, of man himself, along with what governs his existence and his behaviors, etc. After all, the problems faced by man in any place, such as war or conflict or social political injustice, betrayal, loss, expatriation, are not privileges of one or two countries or some countries exclusively, but they constitute issues that concern all over time, regardless of place and language or whatever other individual elements. The endless struggle of man for attainment of freedom, for example, is inherent and exists in all of us without exception, and has been portrayed even since the Greek tragedies of Sophocles and Aeschylus and the rest of them. So literature or writers who have played a very important role in this acquaintance with the other are so many. I will not list them all. I will just refer to a very few emblematic authors such as Hugo, Flaubert, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Melville, Steinbeck, Naguib Mahfouz, Taha Hussein, Nikos Kazantzakis, and many others. Nonetheless, in the last 2 decades, the need for a dialogue and cross-cultural communication among people with different backgrounds and mentalities has become particularly urgent in Europe, mainly due to the rapid transformation of the social landscape in Western societies. The mass migration of people from less privileged countries, and mainly from the Arab countries due to the wars. See, for example, the case of Syrian war, to the most privileged countries in the West, in search for better living conditions, contributed drastically to this need. Many Western societies, especially in urban areas, soon became multicultural, multi-religious, multiracial, and so the need to know the other became even more urgent than ever. To overcome this thirst of knowledge and satisfy our need to understand what's happening, we had to turn to a source of knowledge that is accessible. And this was, of course, literature, books, as they are less expensive and they portray realities, as I mentioned before, and universal realities. And it's no coincidence that despite the economic crisis all over Europe and especially in Greece, more and more books are being translated concerning this area that we are exploring during the last decade, especially after the Syrian immigration problem in 2011 and forward. So, but before I talk about this particular aspect, Arabic literature, books, let me just state that no literature is different than any other, except to talk about it as a means of disseminating the characteristics and special features of in our case, Arabic culture, and its impact on the Western world. Arabic literature has always been a huge chapter in world literature with fanatical readers, not only in the Arab world, but also in the Western world. And as I mentioned, its impact, especially in recent years, is unprecedented. I would like here to give a bit of background information concerning its presence in the West. Contemporary Arabic literature, which, with a few exceptions, began to become known in Europe in the 60s and 70s. Until then, the Arab world was portrayed through the eyes of Western writers, such as Camus or Bauss or Autumn or Foster, Darrell, even the Greek Circus and Tabaks. And little did we know about the original voices. And the truth of the matter is that the actual transformation of Arabic literature came mainly out of the rapid social and political changes that took place in the regions 50s, during the 50s or the 60s, especially after the colonial era. In other words, the anti-colonial experience itself played a catalytic role in shaping up and creating a new literary consciousness, and in simple terms, a new voice in literature that is more acute and more updated. The revolution throughout the Arab world that were aiming towards freedom, independence, and autonomy gave a new spiritual nourishment to writers, new ideas and insights. Preceding to those, there was, of course, the Palestinian issue that was played to a great extent, still exists today as a major trauma in the collective consciousness of Arab writers, especially those of the corresponding areas in the Middle East that were afflicted by wars, following those of others and conflicts in this region, such as the civil war in Lebanon, the war in Iraq, and most recently in Syria, also contributed to how the literary landscape changed drastically and conveyed to us by translation. One should not neglect to mention, of course, women's emancipation and their struggles for equality, education and job opportunities, even in the most conservative societies. All these struggles played a significant part in the transformation of Arabic literature, introducing the so-called gem literature in the area. This along with the mass migration of a large number of young people due to wars, a new generation of writers came to surface, a generation of writers who served new innovative ideas concerning sovereignty, self-governance, independence, even love and sentiment at periods of conflict and crisis. Thus, gradually but steadily, the introversion and elusive writing of the past, which was a feature of the exotic literature we knew in the past, has changed drastically. And now the European or the Western reader is confronted with bolder, outspoken, and more challenging than ever texts and poetry. And as conflict unfortunately continue in this area and people are still struggling with issues such as expatriation and racism in many cases. History will always continue to play a decisive role in the ways literature is shaped up and expressed by writers nowadays and portrays those issues. It is known that the rapid development of transformations of the social fabric have always been reflected in art, especially literature, which once again is one of the most accessible forms of art. This is why I very much insisted to like the Center of Greek and Arabic Literature with emphasis to poetry and humanities and literature in general. So why poetry? Because poetry is also inspired by the same events, and poets express those and highlight all these problems in their work. Poetry is harmonized with history, and now it becomes very revolutionary, realistic, allegorical, symbolic, while the length of the poem is significantly reduced compared to the past that was much longer. In fact, contemporary Arabic poetry and literature in general is a truthful representation of the progressive differentiation, changes, and the evolution of the whole area, politically, socially, literally, and all respects. It captures all the transformations, therefore, that have taken place, and they are all conveyed to us in those texts and those forms. It is no coincidence that Syrian poetry, for example, has introduced what we are calling in literature, literature of the tragedy or literature of the wound. Thus, as readers, we know better what's going on in those areas from inside, from their own point of view and their own presentation or representation. So the Western reader, apart from the fact that nowadays he's dealing with a more direct text, which allows him to perceive and understand it easier, as language also has become simpler and more direct. The reader also began to wander in the paths of human condition and activities, recognizing that they are all familiar to him and that the other is but a different version of himself or herself. Now, as readers, we get to know the struggles of democratization for freedom of expression and the struggles towards better living conditions, next to, unfortunately, ongoing wars, which affect tremendously the ways of life and the ways writers capture and express their experiences. In short, the political, historical, social context in which these people live in are portrayed in those books we read. I would like only to, I will not take much of your time, and I have prepared some translations of poetry, but this will take some time, maybe in another session. So I will conclude that contemporary Arabic literature in recent years is changing very drastically, seeking to satisfy a wider readership, but also to bridge the gap of not knowing or not knowing as we are supposed to know. And its growing number of readers now no longer choose it for the exotic themes that were presented in the past by Western writers many times, or even by a local ones, but for the universal issues that were manifested, and especially reflections of those problems we are all facing today. Nowadays, the reader of Arabic literature is confronted with the problems that people face in the Arabic countries, such as displacement, expatriation due to wars, and only with understanding them from within, we may be able to deal with them with an open mind and a better knowledge. That's an overview of the mentality that also is used in the life in our new initiative, Greek and Arabic literature, to let people know that there are no differences whatsoever in expressing pain or love or universal subjects, topics. And this is the best way to unify, I think, understand the issues.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. There are some questions, but we can, at the end of all the speakers' presentation, we can bring to you the question put in the chat. Thank you again for your accurate intervention. I give now the floor to Liliana Papangeli. Just let me a second to assign her the role of presenter. Okay, you should be now able to share your screen. Okay, you are presenter now, Liliana. You can share and...
Yeah, okay. Cool. So, hello everyone. I'm Liliana Papangeli, Managing Director of Solomon, which is a non-profit, independent, investigative digital media outlet devoted solely to covering Greece's refugees and migrants and the policies that affect their lives. And I'm a social anthropologist as well. It's really nice to be here this morning among all the wonderful people who are taking part in this event. And I would like to thank Culture Police for the invitation. You will excuse my preference not to use a PowerPoint presentation. It's my professor Tim Ingles' fault in anthropology that taught us, among other amazing and unconventional things, to rely in such cases completely on our ability to just talk. I know not necessarily something you would expect from a university professor, but out of joke, please let me know if there is anyone here today with hearing issues. So afterwards, I can take care of sending a written abstract to him or her of what I'm going to talk about today. But yeah, even without a visual presentation, I promise I'll be short and will not send you to sleep. So when I received this invitation and had to think and decide on the topic and the title for my presentation, I struggled a bit on what this should be instead of generally talking about Solomon. And that's because as a person who works in the media field, I feel this duty and the kind of commitment these days more than ever to talk about the importance to protect journalism and to raise our voices, because the truth is that journalism in Greece is bleeding today. So eventually I decided to talk a little bit about inclusive media and inclusion, and why inclusion is one of the amazing things that could literally save today's journalism in Greece from an absolute disaster. And to begin with, I will share with you something that gives an idea of where Greece is with respect to other European countries when it comes to inclusion in the media. So in winter 2019, I was invited by European Journalism Center to the News Impact Summit with the topic Identity and Inclusion, Local News with Diverse Voices. And there I discussed the case of Solomon and the use of media as a tool for social inclusion for refugees and migrants. Listening to journalists and people who were there to discuss their own take on the topic, representing media companies like BBC and Al Jazeera, or media experts from Birmingham and Oxford University, and many other local independent media from many European countries, I started to realize that I was coming into this discussion representing Solomon, which is based in Athens, Greece, from a very, very different starting point. So while for the rest, the conversation was beginning from a very honest confession, which was, it's time to accept newsroom diversity efforts have failed. For me, it felt more like we can't really say that we have failed because we haven't even tried yet. And while the rest could support that they had gone through decades of making a case for more inclusion and representation in journalism, for us, for decades, there was not a single concern about this. So let me say this about inclusion when it comes to Greek media. Newsrooms are far from being an accurate mirror of the society they seek to capture and inform, because that would mean inclusion. This is inclusion. We haven't failed yet, because at first place, inclusion was never the case here. And from this point, I will try to discuss a couple of things of what we at Solomon have decided to do differently regarding inclusion. Well, first of all, I would say that the problem comes from the top. And by this, I mean that there is no diversity success without inclusive management. And look at the mass and popular Greek media. In almost all cases, top management or chief editors continue to be overwhelmingly white, male, and middle-aged. And this is exactly where a very important difference of Solomon from the other media is found. Nasruddin Izami and Nadir Nouri, both coming from Afghanistan and living in Greece for more than 10 years and having great experience in the humanitarian field, working as interpreters and cultural mediators. They are members of Solomon's board since the beginning, and their contribution has been irreplaceable. And if I had to give a very concrete example of this contribution, this would be an early and decisive shift for Solomon, 100% thanks to these people. And it's the following. So when it was launched, Solomon wanted to be the voice of the voiceless. It wanted to create a platform only for migrants and refugees to share their own stories. This is, of course, a very, I would say, Western and European way of understanding the world and the others. So when Adir and Nasruddin joined the team, they raised a very legitimate, I would say, question, which was, what's the point of keeping people separated? And that's how Solomon's purpose evolved from writing about refugees to writing with them. And this was mainly because of Nadir and Nasruddin's contribution of two people with a refugee background who could listen to the needs of their communities, who could show us how to listen to the needs of their communities and bring this understanding in our audience through a kind of journalism which is collaborative, inclusive, and demands collective work. And I also invite you to consider my example as a woman under 30. How often do we encounter in the media industry in Greece women in a decision-making position? Honestly, it doesn't feel comfortable to think of the answer. I mentioned communities a minute ago, and I would like to try now to explain how important to our work the trust we build with refugee and migrant communities is. So Solomon has a community-based approach on the way it does journalism. In this kind of journalism, we rely heavily on listening to migrant and refugee communities. And actually not only listening to them, but really acknowledging the agency these people have to shape and decide on their own stories and the way these stories are being told. We do not write about them, we produce stories with them. And that's how we manage to make Solomon an example of how independent media can be used against one-sided reporting and as a tool against the rise of xenophobia in Greece. It is critical to our work to ensure that we break this cycle of extractive migration reporting, and that's the reason we decided to take the communities on board. Their insights inform our work, and we create journalism in response to their needs. We create journalism together. And Solomon Media Lab, Solomon's training program in journalism, photography, filmmaking, storytelling, was created in order to give the tools to migrants and refugees to tell their stories, to cover actually this gap in the representation of these communities in media and in public discourse. Yet the current cycle is a little bit different. It was the first time after 4 cycles of workshops that we decided to form a series of workshops and seminars for established journalists this time, while representatives of refugee and migrant communities, as well as, of course, professional journalists and media experts with huge experience in the field of migration coverage, were the guest lecturers, so from the other side. Of course, the dream for us is to be able to work at the same time towards these 2 directions, because the same way it's important to empower the representation of minorities in the media, it's also enormously important to train ourselves, journalists, to be truly present to our encounters with them. And of course, back to reality, that's dream, of course, depends on the funding we get as an independent media. So I would say that being inclusive and attentive in the media is a matter of journalistic practice and ethics. And here I come to the last part of my talking and a thing I would like to share with you. The last 2 years, we have started to explore new practices on how to succeed in inclusion in a different production stage of a story or investigation that we call beyond publication. So the idea behind this is that the published story is not a finished work. And the question is how we could engage communities and initiatives through offline or online events, not only in the course of the investigative process, but also after the final publication, that is, after a piece is delivered to the audience. So last October, Balkan Insight, a website of the Balkan Investigative Reporting Network, that focuses on news, analysis, commentary, and investigative reporting from Southeast Europe, published a long-term investigation into the different realities of unaccompanied minors that live in Greece, growing up in the shadow of coronavirus. The piece was produced as part of the Balkan Fellowship for Journalistic Excellence, received that year by our colleague, journalist at Solomon, Stavros Malikoudis. Just to give you an idea in short of what this piece was about, so for over a year, Stavros had followed young male refugees and asylum seekers that had arrived in Greece as unaccompanied minors, recording their lives and digging into the challenges they experienced. During his research, he met unaccompanied minors living for months in grim conditions in the Phylakio and Amygdaleza detention centers, underage boys harvesting strawberries in Manolava, and others living on the streets or sharing flats with up to 20 of their compatriots while working on the grey market. So after the publication, Solomon and Beard teamed up, having the following goal: to bring these stories back to its protagonists. In other words, to engage and include them in the discussion that a story like this can raise after its publication. So the first thing we did was that the story was also translated into Pashto, Arabic, and Urdu to be shared with the refugee communities through the social networks they use to communicate and exchange information along the refugee route. The second thing is that we staged an event that included reading out the story and to which, more importantly, young male refugees and asylum seekers were invited in order to share their reflections on it, as well as their own experiences as unaccompanied minors. People were grateful for having this opportunity. They asked us to do this more often. They even offered their help in other topics we investigate. It was really amazing to see how important this was to them, how important it was to them to sit in a circle with people from a country that always rejects them and have the opportunity to discuss their experiences and talk about their lives. I gave this example because very often I take these questions, especially regarding the media workshops we offer to refugees and migrants through Solomon Media Lab, which are how many of them are working in the media industry today, and have they become journalists? And, you know, to me, it is not really a matter of being able to say, oh, look, we managed to train 20 refugees and now they're going to be journalists. Because to be completely honest, well, that is a lie. They're not going to be journalists in most cases. So my answer to these questions is always the same, which is more or less, we have now learned that the question is not really if refugees can be a journalist or if a refugee can take the position of a journalist. The important question here is how they can collaborate. The refugee and the journalist, each one coming from their own side and creating something together. And I think that's when inclusion succeeds. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much indeed. Just let me give you a brief overview about the current event. We have now 29 participants connected. Some of them wrote me privately with the questions, and even to give all the participants an overview of who we are and how many people are connected. And we reached the 35 participants 10 minutes ago. So we are really happy about the participation. And I invite all of you, all the participants, to put questions or doubts or curiosity on even opportunity, if any, to further collaboration. We had several input on which we can debate and discuss now or even in future for future projects. So just this brief overview. Thank you very much indeed, Liliana, for your presentation. I'll give now the floor before to start with the Q&A to Dr. Alpanis. I hope to well pronounced. And I give you the role of presenter so you can keep the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning. I would like to say a big thank you to you all, and especially the Inicia and the crew from Culture Polis for the invitation. In the next 20 minutes, I'm Andreas Albanis. I'm a doctor for cultural sociology. I'm representing Smooth, Synergy of Music Theatre. We are an artistic, cultural and educational organization based in the center of Greece, Larissa. We have something like 20 years of experience with many European projects for increasing, let's say, or further develop the cultural dialogue between young people. And we produce artistic productions, productions, music, like that. So 20 minutes to present you a project, the Talks project. It's a project that we love very much, all the partners. And also we will try together to have something like a virtual application of a method in order to develop our friendly, let's say, to use attitude we want after this presentation, because this presentation is followed by a guide, by a book with several tutorial videos, so everyone after this can use it, and it's invited to use it actually. So let's start sharing my screen. Okay, so Detox, creative and inclusive nonverbal education. It was an Erasmus Plus project, strategic partnership in the field of youth, 28 months of duration from September 2018 till the past December. The partners were 6 artistic and cultural organizations from the European Roots and Roots International Network, and Folkuniversitet from Sweden. Folkuniversitet is the leader, let's say, for the linguistic education of refugee and immigrants in Sweden. So the other organization from Greece, Italy, Germany, France, Hungary, and the Netherlands. They are from Roots and Roots International. The talks, as the title may show, is designed to extract talking from communication by focusing on the social cultural aspect of learning a language. And in this project we had 2 main paradoxes. The first paradox was that we tried to use the non-verbal communication for linguistic education of newcomer refugees, immigrants, and asylum seekers in Europe. The second paradox was that we didn't have teacher about this. So we have just, we designed the methods, the educational methods, that they were based in performing arts and media. We designed it in order to have just some facilitators and for creating a peer learning environment. So we include also in our trainings, in our methodology, local youth as a peers for this exchange between them with non-verbal messages and words. And now I will try to give you an example about this. If everybody knows Broken Phone, the game, I will try to share the screen again. One moment. I hope everyone understands what I'm saying, because, okay, thank you, Liana. So we are. Yeah?
You should. Would you like to share again your screen?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, great.
I'm trying to do that. Okay. Can you see Broken Phone here?
Yeah.
Okay. I will show you how this method is presented in the guidebook. So this is the organization who proposed the method, the name of the facilitators, when to use. For learners with level A1 to A2, it could be easier to use this practice when participants have already been working together, but some elements of it can be used as icebreaker. I would like to say that all the methods we have here, 18 methods, they are followed by a video tutorial for the trainers, for the facilitators, and all can be used for supporting the linguistic education, but also for group, international group bonding. So participants, 4 to 8 participants, duration, no language skill needed, artistic disciplines, drawing, theater, singing, what equipment do we need, paper, pens, markers, and colored pencils. Setting, an open space big enough to form lines, could also be done in a classroom environment with people sitting in rows of desks. Aim and subject, communication via any non-verbal means. And here is the procedure, is short, sorry. The participants stand or sit in lines, preferably with eyes and ears closed. If more than 8 participants, split in 2 or more groups. The facilitator gives a word or phrase to the person standing at the rear end of the line. If no language skills are already achieved, she or he can use any other non-verbal means to explain this word or phrase. This person has to tap the back of the person standing in front of him or her in order to make him or her turn around and try to explain the word phrase with no words. When the second person thinks that she or he has the word, turns to next person and so on until the person standing first in the line is reached. At that point, she or he reveals the word, the facilitator reveals the starting word, and the team checks if it reached unchanged or changed. Very often the meaning changes completely, making everybody laugh a lot. So we have also 2 variations, something like a competition and something that you could implement this in a class with chairs and things like that. And also what we can do about to assess the level of participation or the level of satisfaction of the group at the end, what we have to pay attention to, okay? And then we have some photos and some other data for this. So I would like to show you a video, but I'm not sure if we will have a good.
Actually, sometimes the videos through WebEx makes trouble,
So
but we can try. You can try.
My suggestion is to put the link of YouTube here to the chat and give to everybody, to everyone who participate here, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Of watching alone and then come back in order to discuss. Yeah?
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so we have 4 or 5 minutes to watch the video in the chat, and then we can come back, okay?
Yeah, 5 minutes. Thank you.
I can also try to share it. Maybe we can try. We can try to share. Okay, just I can conclude, I think, and I hope that you had. Um, have you seen you would be able to see the videos? Okay, great. Um, it's a really, really nice video and method. Unfortunately, we are not in present because I'm sure that it could be a method that we can use also during our physics event, isn't it? It could be.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, if I could share my screen again,
yeah, with
the
I
power.
give you the privilege, the authority. Yeah, now you can. Okay.
So thank you. So we are here, let's say. So all the guidebook has 18 non-verbal communication methods, like the broken phone we saw. The important for us is if you are able, let's say, to use it when you see the description as a read to you, and after the video experience, let's say, if you feel already ready to say, okay, let's start with my group and have some fun, but also some very, very good results.
Um,
Both
s-
yeah.
Sorry if I interrupt you. Can you put also the link to the guidebook in the chat? So, of
Yeah.
course, we are going to share all the presentation in the project website, but if you can maybe also put the link of the guideline in the chat, maybe some partners can keep it immediately without checking in the presentation, or otherwise we can put it in a later stage on the website.
Oh, this is my intention.
Yeah, of course, we are happy to support you in the dissemination of also this is really, really interesting, and it's a real pity that we cannot use this method now all together because we are not together physically.
So thank you for your attention. This is my email. I could respond immediately for any of your detailed question, let's say. And here is our website from Smooth. Thank you. And I will stop share my screen, and I will give you the link in the chat.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, I think that now we have some questions from the participants to everybody. I think so. Please feel free to all of the speakers can reply. I have my personal question now that you are in the front, Andreas, about your project. You mentioned that was financed in the framework of Erasmus Plus. I think is correct.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
And is scheduled any follow-up project, maybe with forthcoming programs, Erasmus Plus program 2021, 2027? Um, are you thinking about follow-up or something like that?
Actually, we are in the procedure of the final reporting right now. So I
Okay.
think it's premature to say that we will actually we have found the way in order to continue it. But for sure, the results was very, 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 very optimistic in order to stop it
Okay.
here. And we will try, and we are open to proposal if some other countries want to further develop some methods or to complete it with more with other methodologies and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because this is a question that I received from Mazzara. Generally, what can be do with Mazzara del Vallo in the future? Because yeah, especially for the first two intervention was focused on the Arab, if I can say, environment. And as you know, Mazzara del Vallo is considered the most Arab town in Europe. and it could be interesting. I don't know, because this is this project, apart the event that we are organized that have their own objective, is even an opportunity to create synergy and cooperation among the organization represented in the consortium. In this case, there was a specific questions to among Mazzara del Vallo and the Greece partners, but then the opportunities to collaborate are open to all the partners. I don't know if someone want to reply or you have any idea for the future. This is the question from Mazzara del Vallo.
Yeah. May I?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. And I note with great interest that I have noticed already that you are the most Arab city in the European context, and I believe that we can.
I'm not from Mazzara del Vallo. There is the partners from Mazzara del Vallo. I'm from.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, there is an interest, and we are all in the edge of the Mediterranean. I believe, and we have discussed also with Dionysia and Persa, that we could consider a kind of follow-up project based on some specific ideas and exploiting already our experience from Kelalp and other very interesting examples. And we are waiting, in particular concerning Europe for Citizens program. It is an ideal place where we can play around the meetings, but physical this time, and bring in experiences, but also in Erasmus Plus that will be announced anytime, any moment now, to consider a kind of specific action capitalizing on that. So Calcipolis will be willing to support and participate and lead eventually these kind of events. So we are open to your suggestions and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Then there is a public question, more a curiosity than a question. That was I think to Liliana Papangeli, asking to what Solomon means and why their initiative took this name.
Yeah, really common question. So Solomon was named after the main character of Jose Saramago's book, The Elephant's Journey. And it's actually the story of Solomon, or Suleiman, if you want, who was an elephant, who traveled to Europe when King John III, if I remember well, of Portugal presented Solomon as a gift to Maximilian of Hamburg. And I mean, he had lived in Lisbon for 2 years, and prior to that in India. And we thought that his story has much in common with the lives of people crossing borders and continents in search for secure life. So that's how Solomon got its name.
Thank you. Thank you. Then we have a question to Professor Comozzi, Perza, about you presented the case of the Arabic literature in Greece. Do you have collaborated with regarding the Italian country with some Italian university, or could be interesting for your work? Try to analyze also the case of Arabic literature in Italy. I don't know if. Wait a second. You are muted. What is?
Yes, I would very much like to expand to Italy as well, because many to see the perspective of translating the same writers. For example, lately I've been translating a very famous Syrian poet who's been translated now by a very good Italian translator. So it would be fine to see how the translating approaches from both Greece and Italy, and make some findings about the approach of doing this, approaching this writers or poets. So I would very much like to expand.
Okay, because we have several contact with the university from Sicily and Sardinia too, that are specific department for the Arabic. So could even, in my personal opinion, I started to study Arab 2 weeks ago. So
I
really...
believe that unless we understand fully what these people stand for and write about, and to have a deeper knowledge of their idiosyncrasy, of their thoughts, of the problems, we would never be able to tackle the problems properly. 100%. And the universities, I think, all over the world, even in England now, they are doing researches on translations, Arabic translations, and the impact of those translated words on the transformation of how people think, and the perception of the Europeans towards this kind of literature.
Thank you very much indeed. And I keep the your word, one of your latest words said about the perception, to give you one project questions. That is the question that we try to ask to all the participants during all the event. This is not coming from the participants, it's coming from me, from the project, if I can say that. Is something that is extra, something extra from the intervention, the today intervention. But I would like also just to have a very quick answer about the general perception in your feelings about the Greece population towards immigrants or refugees, or all the diversity to the foreign. What is the, in your opinion, the perception, the idea that the majority of Greece population has in front of this phenomenon? This is not
Yes, that's a real question. I think the general perception of people who do not know really is that these are people that need to be helped, okay? But they don't know the deeper aspects of the problem, and the deeper aspects of the problem are not the ones that we see only on the surface. The idiosyncrasy of those people who are expatriated have to be studied and have to be tackled. It's not a superficial I don't believe in superficial tackling. I believe in a much deeper and a thorough understanding of those and the culture they have and what they have to offer us, because they do have to offer great things. They are the bearers of great cultures.
Thank you.
We expect them also to, we must give them the opportunity to expand on what they are. It's not only from our point of view only. This is, I think it's a strategy that is not 100% effective. We have to let them.
Thank you. If I just ask the same question for a very quick reply from all of you. So if you want, I don't know, Andreas, Vaselos, or Dionysia, or Ileana, just a quick.
Let me take
Go. Please.
Yes, I believe that we have to see realistically the problem of migration and refugees. In Greece, it has been very politicized, and this because of the invasion from the Turkish border to Greece in the islands, who do not have infrastructures and the like. And we have been experiencing situations that are not to be repeated. But nevertheless, we have to put the problem in the real dimension of it, meaning that it's not by invasions type of solutions that we can solve the problem. The best, and I have not seen it, and I regret it very much from European authorities and the like, the best issue to stop this problem and the impact, the negative impact, is to help the people where they live and they used to live. So the story of Syria is a flagrant example, negative example. And we have 3 million and 3.5 million refugees in the borders of Turkey, and now we have to massively export them where the Kurds used to. I mean, these solutions are not acceptable. We have to help people develop and have people repatriate to help the development of their own country. Pretending that we would absorb all of them without any friction, etc., it's a myth. There is a situation, there is a problem, and it cannot be solved by building better camps or whatever have you. It has a broader scope. But on the other side, we have to help these people who want to be integrated and developed and not seen by chance found in a small island, to understand that they have to try to integrate the societies they live. They cannot create their own isolated communities without, and we see that in all European countries. So I believe it's a very complex project. There have been many good initiatives and efforts, but we need a campaign of helping the countries of these people to get developed, to be developed, to offer jobs, and then you will see that all these tensions will be calmed down, and we have to help the people that must be helped. So this is my personal opinion. It's not the opinion of a group, but nevertheless, we face that every day and still years ago. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you to your reply. Don't know if Andreas can. Then we have another questions. If Andreas wants to say something, or Dionysia or Ilenia.
Just a short comment. It's surely like Mr. Leopoldi said, is a very, very complex problem. Also, like Mrs. Koumoutsou said, in general, we feel that the Greek people is caring about other people in general, but also this new situation. It's a very, very good opportunity for populists and some right party in order to create a further fear for the other, and to see these newcomers and people in need like a threat. And this is something that it's not applied only in the policy and the policy making about the European Union and the Greek state, but also it divides hard the Greek people and all the interested parties. So in this complex problem, I would add a more technical and political problem in this.
Thank you. Someone else? Don't know if want to intervene. If I should, I received. Okay. I received the questions to Mrs. Papangeli, but I don't see the questions. Wait a second. Maybe he's writing. I don't know if Iliana wants to say something in the meantime.
I can see Iliana. Maybe she had a problem with her connection, or she's at the attendees list. I don't know.
Okay. Probably, yeah, I can see her. I don't know if Dionysia want to give your point of view in the meantime.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you all every initiative is very interesting, and we can think of several ideas and projects in extent of them. Regarding the perception, I think that it depends. We can see a geographical, for example, distribution of the perceptions. In big cities, it's more difficult to understand. But in small villages, because I come from a small village in Peloponnese, you can see that the integration that have lost a lot of its local people. The economy depends on their work, so we can see that they are active, and they're also parts of the community, even in Greek celebrations where they don't share the same religion, but you can see them during Easter to follow all the local traditions like events. So it's all the opportunities to exchange ideas, and I think in small communities you can see the integration is in a higher level.
Thank you. Okay, I have the questions. Is to Mrs. Papangeli that, unfortunately I can't see her. Probably she had problem with the connection. Okay, for the moment I read the questions and then we see. Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to ask how to best promote the inclusivity that actually helps excellent emphasize the work done. What was the most difficult part to present that to the public or partners, public agency or other institution? In the end, journalism promotes change by practice to try new things, invitation, participation. I can write the questions even in the public chat because it's quite long to summarize it. But I afraid that Liliana had some problem with the chat, with the connection, I think.
I can see a message from Liliana. She said that she had to leave because she has another meeting to attend,
okay,
and she has sent me her email. So if anyone wants to contact her for more details or any other question, he can use her email to contact her directly.
Okay, maybe you can write the email directly in the chat. So okay. Well, I think that now we are going to close our event. I think it was really, really interesting and okay, perfect, Dionisa. So you put in the chat the email. So I want to really again thank you, the organizers of this event, because and also the speakers. They were really clear, accurate, and interesting. Even I want to really thanks all the participants for your participation, your questions, your curiosity. Just let me before to leave the floor to the host for the concluding remark. Just let me remember that the next event of the project is scheduled for Thursday, 11 March, so in 2 days in Albania, if we can say that. So you should have the registered link, the registration link. I put it also in the chat, so you can just go to the link and register the event. So you can also receive the link to the virtual room of WebEx. For the moment, from my side is all. Again, thank you very much. Again, was really, really interesting. I leave the floor to the hosting country for the conclusion remarks in the person of Dionysia or present. I don't know. It's up to you.
No.
Please.
Dionysia is we celebrate the Women's Day.
Okay, with a day later, but
And
it's okay.
it makes my work easier.
Okay.
So thank you all for being here today in our virtual event and for sharing all these interesting theses and ideas and of course your initiatives. I also thank our lead partner for co-organizing this event, and we're looking forward for the next ones to come and to share more ideas with other countries too. I wish you all a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.